Welcome everyone to Train Tuesday. I'm your host, Jim Wiggins. So glad to have you on board. We're going to be talking about gondolas tonight, and we're not going to limit it to just one scale either. We're going to talk about HO as well as N scale. But before we get started, I want to thank you all for joining me here tonight. If you're catching us on the live, thank you very much. We do appreciate that. If you're catching us on YouTube after the fact, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video like this drops into the feed. And comment. We do appreciate the comments. We do enjoy the interaction as well. So without further ado, let's see who's joining us. I see Tim is here, Elko Steam, Donnie, DG Model Works is in the house, Ronald, Dan, Jason is here, David Reynolds is here, and Rogun95. So we just got a few guys showing up. We got about 60 folks who have joined us so far on the live stream. You can remember we carry the live stream all through the months of October, all the way through April. Hard to believe it. We're already more than halfway through the live portions of Train Tuesday. We go pre-recorded in May through September, just mainly because, well, everybody's busy with summertime activities, and the live attendees goes down significantly after that date. So again, we're going to be talking about Athearn HO scale as well as N scale gondolas. We're going to start with the HO scale tonight, and then we're going to stick around. N scale guys, we're going to have some for you as well, and we'll probably maybe even do some operations and kind of something cool tonight. We're going to have behind the scenes of one of our Athearn product developers who had a lot of work to do with both the HO and N scale gondolas, kind of give you an idea of what goes through the minds of our product developers when they're working on this stuff. So one more round of shout outs. I see Delta 9 is here, Ronald, Donnie, DG Model Works is in the house, which reminds me, if you haven't seen his new mini review of the SD40-2s that we talked about last week, head on over to DG Model Works, check out his video. Pretty cool on the long hood tall hood, long hood forward SD40-2s. We got Martin, George, Ronald, Michael, Charles Woods. Yes, we've got N scale for you tonight, Charles, and Southpaw, as well as Ashley. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with another Train Tuesday, talking about the HO scale Athearn branded gondolas. Now, this first run was announced originally in February of 23, kind of a while ago. Now, you'll notice that tonight I'm actually going to be talking about two different gondola announcements, at least in the HO scale. And again, that's part of our factory's commitment to get product moving. So we're going to actually be talking about two releases on the HO scale tonight. So let's go ahead and actually take a look at these gondolas. So the first ones that we have up are 1980s CSX. These are really cool, and we also offer these in N scale, but these are really cool for you guys that are modeling the 1980s. Again, 1980s modelers, they're starting to get more and more prevalent. So we want to offer these 1980s era cars for you guys. Now, these are all available as either two singles or a 3-car set. As you can see here, this is the 3-car set that's being shown. You also have two additionals. And as you can see for yourself, none of the road numbers are duplicates. They're all different, so you can get all 5 cars for your system. Now, if you want to see even further details, or if you just want to see the original announcement, you can always select the original PDF announcement link in the video description below. Up next is 1990s era Herzog. This, of course, is one that if you're a 90s modeler like myself, you're going to probably want to put these in your fleet. These could be seen throughout the country. And again, we're going to be offering these in 2 singles, like the single that we've got shown here, as well as a 3-car set. Here's one of the newer offerings, and yes, that is that glossy. It's really kind of cool. It's based on a prototype image that Janik, one of our product developers, took not too far from where he lives. And the picture when he took it, this car was basically brand new. So we wanted to offer it as it was seen back then. It really is that shiny. Now, of course, you're always welcome to dull it down and weather it to your taste, but we wanted to offer it as it looked new in 2010. Again, available in 2 different road numbers in a single pack as well as a 3-car set. This is SMBC Rail Services. So again, you're going to see this throughout the country. One from my neck of the woods, Boston, Maine. In fact, I've got one here on the layout tonight. The Boston, Maine purchased these about 1975. And I can tell you, by the time I was seeing them in service, they were under the Guilford flag, and they were a little worse for wear. Gondolas get beat up pretty easily. They're used for various things, and Boston and Maine used them for various things, and of course, they got beat up pretty quickly. So if you're modeling the Boston and Maine from 1975 on to the Guilford era, you're going to want to do some heavy weathering on these. These didn't really see the they didn't see the cleaning rack that much, if at all. These are going to be available in a 3-pack as well as the singles. And again, this is perfect for you guys that are modeling the 1970s into the 1980s. 1990s era Gondola connection. This is kind of a neat car. This is another car that you could see just about anywhere in the country. We're offering this 1990s era car also in 2 singles as well as a 3-car set. And here's Trinity Industries. This is another more modern car that we're offering. Mid-2000s, definitely after 2006, because you can see the conspicuous stripes are applied to the sides of the car. Trinity Industry Leasings, that basically means you're going to see these all over the United States and Canada. And again, mid-2000s era, so it actually works well typically with my layout since I'm doing late 90s, early 2000s. This is another era that we're seeing a lot of folks asking for, so we wanted to make these available to you. Now, the second run came about in March of 2023, right after this one. And we did the same thing. We were offering 2 singles as well as a 3-car set. Again, if you want to see this original announcement, I did put the link in the video description below so you can see that. I will tell you that a lot of these in HO scale have already sold out at Athearn.com. So if you didn't pre-order one of these, you're going to want to contact the hobby shop of your choice, probably online, and see if they ordered extra above pre-orders, and you might be able to get one of these. So we're going to start. These are going to be a little bit older than the ones that we showed in the first round. These are going to be more in the 70s and 80s. We're going to start with Rio Grande. Rio Grande car here as it appeared in 1977. Really cool. You've got your ACI label on there, so that really sets the date for these cars. If you want to run these in the 80s, you certainly can. You're going to want to weather these appropriately and probably ding them up just a tad bit. 1980s era Burlington Northern. These are a mainstay. If you're modeling anything in the Midwest or the West, these are going to be a mainstay on your layout. We're offering these, of course, in 2 different road numbers and a 3-car set as well. Here's one that really was popular. Grand Trunk Western. Again, another 1980s car. Not going to stay this clean that long. It's going to get beat up really quickly. But really nice looking car, 1980s era. A lot of you guys have been asking for 80s era cars, and Grand Trunk has been asked for quite a bit in the last few months. So hopefully this will help you guys out. And NDM, another car, mid-70s, could definitely go into the 1980s. Really interesting car, very nice, neat looking car. Of course, it wouldn't last that long like this, but if you're modeling 1975 throughout the 1980s, you're definitely going to want to add a few of these to your fleet. Again, we are seeing more and more requests through our product suggestion line for railroads south of the border, and they continue to sell well for us. As long as they continue to sell well and there's an interest for these railroads, we will certainly keep producing these. And here's another one from my neck of the woods. This is 1980s era Delaware and Hudson. I do remember seeing these in Concord when Concord still had a yard. It's, I guess, technically still a yard now that CSX owns it. But when I was younger, it was a lot more involved as far as a yard, a lot more trackage. And you would see a lot of Delaware and Hudson equipment, especially after 1984, because now the involvement with the Guilford owning Delaware and Hudson, Maine Central, and Boston and Maine, we started to see a lot more Delaware and Hudson equipment on the grounds. And that's probably where I remember these. Also, 1975 Canadian Pacific. This has got the multi-mark paint scheme on it. I really like these. I've been told by many Canadians, do not call that the Pac-Man paint scheme. They do not appreciate that whatsoever. They will throw a moose at you if you do that. So this is the multi-mark paint scheme. It's a really neat scheme. And yes, they did paint a lot of freight cars in this paint scheme. Now, I don't remember seeing these specifically when I was younger, but I'm sure they were roaming around St. Johnsbury, Vermont, and areas of that nature. 2 different road numbers in the single. Of course, the 3-car set is also available. So here's the exciting part. There's a lot of new features in these. These have changed from the last time that we've offered them, and it's been a number of years. Athearn PD went through these cars, and they did a lot of refinements. And we'll see that a little bit here, a little bit closer in the next few minutes. But a couple of things that they did was they refined the end sheet molded on details. So if you look at the end there where the brake wheel is, that's all been refined. It's a much more crisper, much more defined look to it than the previous. They've improved the rivet and bolt details. So again, more refinements and just making everything look more crisp. This is a big one. Corrected wire grab iron placement. So in the old ones, let's face it, older technology, you had to make some compromises. We didn't have to do that anymore. So those grab irons, not only are they separately applied, but they're in the correct placement per the prototype. New top chord details have been added. New jack reinforcement pad details have also been added. And there's even new cut lever mounting details. Now, this is an Athearn model, so it doesn't have the cut levers like a Genesis would, but the details are there. And it's pretty easy to add those cut levers using an aftermarket source for those cut levers. Now, as we'll see in a moment, these will navigate around an 18-inch radius curve. So if you've got a small layout like mine, you're going to have no issues with these whatsoever. So let's see if we've got any questions on the HO scale cars here. If we do, we'll answer those quickly. Then we're going to do a little bit of operations here using these cars. And then we're going to switch over to the N scale. So if you're an N scale guy, hang on. In a few minutes, we'll be talking about your cars. Let's see what kind of questions we've got in the comments. Let's see what we've got. Rogan says, sending an email to Athearn Products and suggestions about the Car Knocker series. See if we can get gondolas like these older eras, dented and weathered, in for heavy use of service. That is exactly what that email is there for. Thank you for that. Send us an email, send your suggestions, and we will certainly consider those. Let's see any other questions. Some folks are asking for ones that we're not offering this time. I'll remind you, you can always go to Athearn-product suggestions at athearn.com. That way you can send an email directly to product development. That goes to their product development planning. It's not a guarantee that we're going to actually build your specific model or your specific road, but it's much better than just putting a comment on social media, which will just get lost overnight. This actually goes to a product developer, and if we see enough demand for your road name or your suggestion, we will certainly offer it in a future release. Let's see what else we've got here in the comments section. Delta 9 saying the white grabs on the NDM Gone look really good. Yeah, they do. They do really look good. All right. Let's go ahead and run a little bit of these. I see there are some questions about ETAs. I don't have any ETAs right now for you. We're going to concentrate on what we're talking about here tonight, which is the Athearn Gons, both HO and N scale. One question I want to get Terry's. Terry is impatient. Says, when's the new survey coming out? It's already out. If you've signed up for our Athearn email, you should have gotten that Friday. If you're part of social media, we had a post out there Monday. So if you're not a part of the Athearn email, you can go to athearn.com and go to the bottom of the page and sign up by adding your email. And we'll send it out again by email this probably by social media, because this Friday's email is dedicated to something else. All right, let's go ahead and switch cameras here. Let's see. So there is our first. That is our Boston to Maine gon. And let's see what we got running today. Now, as we're running, go ahead and ask some questions. We'll keep this pretty brief. We got one mic out so that you don't get that echo anymore. So there we got our Boston to Maine right there in the front. Remember, these are separately applied grab irons. Can't really see the ends on this one just because of where we parked it, but really nice detail. We're going to go ahead and disconnect this guy. So you remember when I said, I think I remember seeing these Delaware and Hudson cars in the Concord yard in the mid 80s. I figured it'd be appropriate to use the New England Southern. Um, but I'm reading some of the comments. That battle sounded great. Good. Thank you. I think we were able to work out some bugs with the microphone. In the past, we didn't have the sound where I wanted it. So good to hear that you guys are hearing that okay. So these cars are really nice. I'm going to move this car a little bit more towards the camera since it rolled a little bit. The orange, yes, Boston and Maine really did paint these this orange. It's a bright orange. By the time I get to see them, they weren't quite this orange. They were more rust than orange, but really nice detail. Now, keep in mind, these are Athearn models. Now, Athearn models basically means they're not going to have the same amount of detail that you would have with an Athearn Genesis model. Genesis models, of course, are going to have air hoses, cut levers, a lot of brake detail underneath. You're just going to have some molded on brake detail. There's a little bit of detail under there. But these are really operator cars. I really like these cars because they have just enough detail to satisfy my like. In an operating situation like this guy's really rolly. This is the joys of doing live television. Never work with animals, children, or models. But these cars are perfect for a small layout like this. These can carry all kinds of different commodities, and of course, they don't take up a lot of room. They navigate the tight curves. Really, really all-around good car. And no matter what kind of layout you have, you're probably going to have an industry that could use one or more of these cars. So there you have it. We will do some rearranging of the cameras here in a moment. And we're going to talk about the N scale. I do have an N scale example here as well. And we'll take a look at that here in just a moment. Let's see. Good question here. Standard coupler box, yes. I realize not everybody wants to use McHenry couplers. You can easily switch out to the coupler of your choice. Let's be honest, a lot of us do that, and we've tried to make it easy. Athearn Product Development tries to make it easy for you. It's not too hard to do. Are these coming in Genesis? Not anytime soon. In fact, if we were to do these in Genesis, we would probably start from the ground up. But you never know what Athearn PD is working on. Randall's got a good comment on these. It's less stuff to worry about breaking off. Yeah, that is so true. When you do operations, and especially if you open up your operations to friends, club members, things of that nature, I mean, you really do have the risk of losing some of those really nice details. And it's common. You saw the little uncoupling tool that I have here. This is made by Rick's Products. It's actually intended for N scale, but it works well for HO as well. That's pretty good about getting the couplers undone, but every once in a while, hey, bad light, I don't know, something happens. You catch an air hose, you catch a cut lever, and next thing you know, your part is lost on the layout somewhere. They also offer a better price point. As somebody like myself, it's budget minded, and I've got a very small layout. Maybe I don't want to spend that much money for the next operating session. I can definitely order 2 or 3 of these and have the same price and enjoyment as I would with a higher price model. All right, let's see what else we've got here. We're going to talk next about the N scale versions. And it's really pretty much a repeat of the HO scale, so we're not going to go into it in big detail, but if you're an N scale guy, you're going to want to take a look at these. Let's just go ahead and get started and actually show you these. These were announced back in February. So like the HO scale guys, you're going to get the CSX 1980s. Now, the thing of it is we are seeing from our surveys that the 1980s, 1990s, 2000s are growing in both HO scale as well as N scale. In fact, a lot of N scale guys that I run with, they're kind of starting to lean towards the 80s and 90s. Whereas when I got into N-Track many years ago, a lot of guys were still doing transition era. We're starting to see that shift. And so we want to be on top of that. So we're offering these CSX in both the singles and the multi-packs in 1980s. And of course, you N-scale guys, you have the advantage of different road numbers as well. We're not going to cheat you out just because you're smaller. Here's the Herzog car in N-scale. Now, these are Athearn. So if you look carefully, look real carefully at this picture, those grab irons are cast on. They have been updated. They've been refined. They're not going to be separately applied because, again, these aren't Genesis. Separately applied grab irons in N-scale is typically a Genesis thing. However, if you're like me and you run N-Track or T-Track or Fremo N, you're not going to want to have all those details. If you're like me, you probably have one of those large cardboard boxes with a foam in it. You're not using the jewel cases. You're taking them out of the jewel cases. You're putting them in the phone line box. You're throwing them in the back of the station wagon. Yes, I still call my car a station wagon. And you go to the show. There's nothing more annoying than getting to a show and opening up that foam line box to find that a grab iron or a cut lever has hooked onto the top of the foam liner and just ripped off from the car when you open up the box. These are perfect, especially for public shows, because guess what? The general public doesn't know if those grab irons are molded on or separate. They just want to see the trains run. And these are where these really shine. Just like the HO scale guys, you're going to get the SMBC rail services. And yes, they're just as glossy in N scale as they are in HO. If you don't want them that glossy, you can take that gloss sheen out really easily. Now, the nice thing about Athearn N-scale cars is you can easily remove the trucks with a small Phillips screwdriver. All of the N-scale cars are attached to the car bodies and chassis with screws, not those plastic friction fit pins, actual screws. Here's some that will be going on my N-scale layout since I modeled Boston to Maine in 1975 and up. These will fit perfectly, and they'll fit perfectly on the team track. These are available both in singles as well as the 3-car set, and they are going to have to get some weathering because even by 1978, they were pretty darn dirty and beat up. Here's the gondola connection for you guys. This one, again, is a late 1990s era car. Something else to direct your attention to. In years past, we got criticized pretty heavily for the size and thickness of our brake wheel. We've gotten that much better. Now, the Genesis cars are much, much finer in detail. We kept these a little bit bigger just because they need to be robust. They're the Athearn line, but they are so much better than the original runs from a couple of years ago. They're not so thick. They look much better. And of course, you can see the end detail on these cars. Much better fidelity. Here's a Trinity Industries leasing company. This car here is available in both singles as well as a 3-car set. And this is great for you guys that are modeling 2006 on up. This is a great car for you modern guys. So like the HO scale cars, these have got some new features as well. I want to share these with you. Improved molded on detail fidelity. I've already seen it in the comments, at least one. A lot of guys are really happy with the detail look of these cars. And again, in N scale, I've got one here off to my left. From here, I can't tell if those grab irons are molded on or, separately applied. Now, for a layout like my home N-scale layout where it sits up higher and it's smaller, you're probably going to want something more detailed. But if you want to run these on N-Track, T-Track, Fremo, these are perfect. Fine scale stirrups. Now, this is a thing that always bothered me being an N-scaler. For years, technology didn't really allow us to have the same thickness stirrups that we saw in HO and larger scales. That technology is finally here. If we look carefully, you can see the stirrups are much thinner than what they were the last time we offered these. This really makes the car look so much better. We've got additional nut and bolt details that have been added. And again, that scale fidelity. These molds were updated for the 21st century, so they look so much better than the last time we offered them. Now, something else that I love about Athearn N scale cars, they have body mounted couplers. They are McHenry knuckle couplers, and they're body mounted. I prefer body mounted, especially since I actually operate my N scale stuff like an actual railroad. I can push, pull with these, and I don't have to worry about constant derailments. This is much better than the old fashioned, what I call Talgo style couplers, where the couplers were attached to the truck. They do also include metal wheel sets, and those metal wheel sets will traverse over any manufactured standard N scale track, whether it be your standard code 80. If you're into N track, you've probably got code 80. If you're running Fremo N, you're running code 55. On my home layout, I have code 40, and they traverse over code 40 with zero issues. Minimum radius on these is 9 3/4. That's as minimum as you can get in N scale, really. So even the smallest T-track module, you can add these to your modules and not have to worry about derailments. They track really nicely. They look good together. There's a lot of great runs available. Most of these, I will say, are sold out at athearn.com. However, that being said, you can talk to your Athearn dealer who may have ordered above pre-orders. If you miss out entirely, I highly suggest the next time these come up for pre-order, you put that pre-order in so you don't miss out. Well, I had said earlier in the program I was going to talk a little bit about Athearn PD and where they get their ideas for some of these new products. So the following pictures were sent by Robert Kenderdine. Now, Robert Kenderdine, Robert Kenderdine sent these pictures in a Teams meeting a couple of days ago. And I'm going to see if I can remove my mug here so you can see his photo credit. There we go. You can hear me. Robert has joined the Athearn team a couple of years ago. Actually, we met him at the Amherst show, the Railroad Hobby show, a couple of years ago. And he signed up on the spot, and I'm happy to say he got hired soon after, and he's been with Athearn product development now for going on about 3 or 4 years. Robert is what I call my East Coast muscle. Since he's a product developer and he's from the Pennsylvania area, he and I usually talk a lot about trains. And so we're blessed to have product developers that are from the Midwest and from the West Coast and now the East Coast. So we do see those surveys. We do see those product suggestions. So this is going back to Robert's earlier days, and this is going back to, he didn't give an exact date, but we're looking at probably early to mid 1980s. And I'll read you some of the notes that he wrote me. This first picture here, it's kind of poignant for Robert. And as you get older as a rail fan, I can certainly identify with this. Robert's shadow is seen in the middle. You see the shadow with 3 folks there, cameras in hand. That's Robert in the middle. And to his left is his friend Scott, a friend of his that was a rail fan for many, many years. And to his right is Robert's father, Russell. Unfortunately, things that are gone from this photo, in the addition to his friend and father, the Bethlehem steel plant that you see here is long gone. Of course, the Delaware and Hudson's Elkos and the Lehigh Valley itself, in which this locomotive was running on, is gone. Now note the mill gondolas on the D&H train, and this was train number BS1. These were basically the inspiration that Robert had to make the Athearn set. So the D&H gondolas that you've seen in our latest release, those were based on this picture here. So again, he didn't give me a date. Judging on my minor experience with the D&H paint schemes, I'm going to say post 75. to early 80s. Here's another really cool picture, taken around the same time. This is a D&H train eastbound near Mountaintop, PA. The rear end helpers in this photo have crested the grade, and it is traveling primarily downhill to Bethlehem, PA. The train is using D&H trackage rights over Conrail, and he said generally this line hugs the banks of the Lehigh River. Really cool picture. A lot of neat stuff in there. Of course, you've got those gonds again, just like the ones that Athearn has released in this latest announcement. Really cool picture. You even see a couple of different paint schemes there. Of course, by the mid 70s, D&H was experimenting with different reduced maintenance, if you will, or easier paint jobs. And this was certainly one of them. If you're interested in this kind of paint scheme, don't forget we just released about a few months ago the D&H GP39-2s in the experimental solid blue scheme. Really cool picture for you caboose guys and you alcoholics. I love this picture. This is a great picture. A little bit closer of the gondola. And the history behind this photo, this is an eastbound picture to BS1, was SB4, which is pictured here. This is another scan that he took. A little bit better resolution than what he had sent me before. Even though it was a high resolution scan, he says it's a bit blurry, and his recollection is that it was very cold the day that he took this picture, and the shivering as he took the photo. There was no, back in those days, you were shooting with slides, probably Kodachrome. You didn't have the stabilization like we take for granted now with your modern Canons and Nikon equipment. This was back in the days of manual advance and Kodachrome. And he didn't tell me what camera he had back then, but if you were shivering, it came out on the photo. It looks pretty good here. And check out the D&H caboose. That is really cool. Note all of the gondolas. This train will shortly go up a ramp into the Bethlehem Steel property in Bethlehem, PA. And oh, here we go. All of these photos were early to mid 1980s. So there you have it. Couple of pictures. Shared to us from our product developer, Robert Kenderdine. I want to thank Robert for getting those pictures to me in time for Train Tuesday so we could talk about them a little bit. Let's see, we've got a little bit of time yet to do some questions. I'm going to work a little bit behind the scenes to get the next scene set up because I want to show the N scale versions of these cars to you as well. Let's see what kind of questions you've got here. Andy says, now that's Norfolk Southern trackage. Yes, it is. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you want to state that. Let's see what other questions we have here. Harold, for some reason, is really enthralled in enjoying the orange gondola. I'm not sure why. Yes, they did exist. Don't believe me, get the Boston to Maine or the Freight Car Guide to New England freight cars. They are all over that one. Railfan has asked this question a number of times. He wants to know what are the new announcements for March. Well, you'll have to find out Friday. That's when we're planning on releasing those to the public. Oh, Southpaw says, I'm glad you showcased the Wisconsin Southern 40-year anniversary. I bought mine on Sunday. Beautiful job on it. Thank you for saying that. I will forward that on to the Athearn product development team. They have a passion for this. I hope by me sharing these pictures from just one of our product developers shows you that we have a passion for this. We're modelers too. Everybody on the product development, marketing, and category management side are model railroaders and railroaders at heart. That doesn't mean we're going to get every single model right every single time, but we do our best with the research that we have, the documentation that we have, and we try to get them because we want to make sure they're right, and we're just sharing our passion with you. Sid says, give Robert an ice cold coffee for the great pictures. I couldn't agree more. Thanks, Robert. If you're watching this, he is a great product developer and has been a great addition to the team. When's the release of the N-scale Gons? Well, the ones that we just talked about, they're available now. If you pre-ordered, which I'm thinking you probably didn't, you probably have them already. We delivered them a couple of weeks ago. But the good news for you is, John, you can contact your Athearn dealer and you can probably pick up one or more of these gondolas. They are available now. Okay, let's go ahead and show that beautiful gondola. And here is the N-scale version on one of my smaller Delios that I built years ago. See if we can get a little bit closer to it so you can see the detail. Focus in on that. So again, this is the Railgun CSX version. I'm going to zoom out just a tad because it's a little fuzzy. There we go. These are really sharp cars. I mean, this is code 55 that I'm rolling on right now. Like I said earlier, let me get my big meat cleavers out of the way. I'll use this guy to point. These are molded on, but they're so fine and detailed that your eye can't really see it. You've got your metal wheel sets, of course. Again, this is code 55. I have used them on my N-scale layout, and they work just fine on code 40. Here's your body-mounted couplers. I'm going to try to carefully pick this up. Now, just like an N-scale, a lot of guys are like, can you convert these over to other couplers? So you can see that it's got a standard size coupler box. Right there, you've got a small Phillips head screw. Here's what's really cool about these. I talked to the designer of the Impossible couplers. If you're into N-scale, you know what these are. They're beautifully scaled couplers. I'm going to be using them on my home layout, and those will go in there pretty easily. If you're using these in, say, N-Track or Fremo N, and you want to use Microtrains couplers, you can definitely update those to Microtrain standards. It's not really all that hard. Something else I do want to point out, we talked about it earlier, is these trucks are screw mounted. Let's see if I can get that in the light so you can see it, but there's a small Phillip head screw there. I really like those better than just having a plastic plug, because then you can actually fine-tune your running, your tracking. Nice running little car. Nicely detailed trucks. And the other thing that you really can enjoy with the Athearn items is you can't even see it in the camera. The camera can't pick it up. But there's all kinds of writing here, warning labels, things of that nature. Pretty legible. You can read that with magnification. So N-scale guys, don't worry. We've got stuff for you as well. You don't have to worry. We haven't forgotten you. So there you have it. We've got gondolas in HO and N-scale. These are available now. Let's do a few questions, and then I'm going to let you get back to it. I really do appreciate the time that you spend with us on a Tuesday night. It's that time of year where hopefully you're working on your layout. Maybe you've got me on in the background and working on the layout. I could only hope. Let's see what kind of questions we've got here. Delta 9 says, great to see some N-scale. Always good to see some N-scale. Absolutely. Spring Creek will have them. If you missed out yesterday, I got to spend some time with Mike and Jeff Zucker at Spring Creek. There's a video that's gone live now. I believe it was a live last night. But if you missed out, you can go to their Spring Creek YouTube channel, check it out. We talk all about the pre orders that close this Friday. Dave Hunt says, great steel plant photos. Nice work on the gondolas. Dave, one of the things that you've reminded me of as a rail fan, take the pictures while you can because tomorrow they may be gone. Keep in mind, a lot of those items in those pictures, they're long gone. And so this is great documentation that you can use for your railroad or just document to see how things once were. Thank you for your kind words on the gons. Let's see. Rodney wants to know, do you have an email address for only you? Would you like to plan something when Illinois? So typically, Athearn employees don't give out personal information. We don't give out email addresses or anything like that. The best way to contact us is through the service email, and service will then forward it to me. And I will say, I am somewhat of a private person. I do enjoy going to train shows, and I do enjoy going to op sessions, but I'm not as outward going as you might think. I'm pretty private. So that's not a no. It's just I'm putting that out there for you. If we can meet at a train show or something like that, I'd be more than happy to meet with you and talk trains. Let's see what else we've got. A lot of hopes and dreams for Friday. People want hints for Friday. I'll probably give you guys a hint here. Let's see if there's any other questions here. Sid, good to hear that. Sid says Train Tuesday is like a time for me to decompress myself from a stressful day. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Hopefully this is helping you de-stress. Model railroading for me was always one of those hobbies that no matter what kind of day I had at the office or at the job site, I could come home and instantly live in a fantasy world where it was Concord 1986 with my favorite switcher and just get lost in running trains or working on the next project. Let's see what else we've got. Lots of people asking for hints. John, good question. Any chance of new N-scale locomotives? So as you probably know, or maybe you don't know, we are suffering from a backlog of projects. There's a lot of projects that Athearn Product Development is trying to get through. In fact, we've been trying to hire a new product developer to help John out. There is a lot of things that we want to do that are in development that we want to get out there, but we're not going to announce them yet until we get some of these projects done. I'm talking surfliners, California cars, of course, the NSC 6400s, the 6000s, the Versa coils. All of those projects are kind of log jammed right now. We're getting to the point where we've got a few more things to overcome. Like I said, electronics on the surfliners, and then those will be ready soon. Once we get through that log jam, yeah, there's a lot of new things that we want to do, and we're always thinking of new N-scale projects. Jason was hoping for something painted in red. I don't know why he would want something in red. I have a feeling later this summer he might see something in red. Ian Green says, I'm a 1970s era modeler. Speaking of guns, any chance that Car Knocker series will include some of these older cars in future runs? For that matter, how are sales for Car Knockers? Well, the good news is the Car Knockers did extremely well. Pre-orders did really well for us. They're a hit, and let's face it, the reason why they're a hit is one of the hardest things to model is a beat-up gondola. Just the pure physics of the plastic, the thickness of the plastic. I've seen guys use soldering irons and do all kinds of strange things. and it either works or it doesn't. Well, these new Gonds solve that problem. And so a lot of us are really excited because let's face it, in reality, how many times do you see a gondola like that in that pristine condition? Not very, very common. But the car knockers being all beat up and just looking like they've been through heck and back, that's more like it. So a lot of people really like that. So you're probably going to see more of those car knocker type series cars offered with some older roads as well. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone here for joining me on another Train Tuesday. I hope you found this video valuable. Again, if you're watching us later on YouTube, do us a favor, like, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff that you do so well, and do talk to us in the comments. We enjoy the interaction. I want everyone out there to be happy, be healthy, be safe, do some good modeling, and above all, high greens. I will catch you soon. Oh, one more thing. Janik and I are going to be live on Thursday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. We're going to be talking about those new reefers that we softly introduced at the Amherst show. If you're really interested on these cars, join us. That's going to be live on Facebook as well as YouTube. That's Thursday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm going to have a good time talking with Janik about these cars. And so until Thursday, I want everybody out there to be happy, be healthy, be safe, do some good modeling, and above all, high greens. Take care, everyone.